Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. Today we're going to talk about common factoring and why it's so important. Let's get started. So when looking at my screen, we're first going to talk about what is it about common factoring that makes it so captivating? Well, common factoring is actually the first kind, let's just adjust that a little bit. It is the first step in any kind of factoring. Now there are two major techniques that we will actually discuss in the next video that are called when we factor by perfect squares and when we talk about difference of squares. Now both of these amazing techniques are great, but oftentimes we'll actually have to apply common factoring first to actually get us to a level where we can use either one of these techniques to make it work out. So what is an example of common factoring, and how can we use common factoring to sort of get us to a level where we can apply any of these two techniques? Well, let me show you an example. So our example is going to look like this. Here's our question. So let's say we have a question that looks like this. We have 20 xyz plus 40 xy plus 80 xyz, right? And when we're thinking about what to do with this question, we can actually get a pretty good indication from what the question itself says. So normally, if we're expected to common factor, you will see terms in the question that look like this. Maybe it says simplify, or maybe it says factor. In either of these cases, you must apply the common factoring technique, right? So what is this common factoring technique and how is it going to help us? Well, let's go through how exactly we want to get this done. The key thing we want to start off with is actually dividing this sort of expression up into its numbers and its variables. So we have here our number part. We have 20, 40, and 80, right? And then we have our variable part, which I'm going to do in this, let's go with this black color here. XYZ for 20, XY for 40, and again here we have XYZ for 80. I'm actually going to change this question a little bit. We're not going to use XYZ. We're simply going to use YZ, right? So it's going to be 80YZ. Let's quickly change that up, right? And what we're trying to do in each of these cases is we're trying to find the greatest common factor, right? So let's look at the numbers first. For the numbers, we have to decide between 20, let's do that in the red color so you can really see where I'm going with this. 20, we have 40, and we have 80, right? And what we're trying to do is we're trying to locate the greatest common factor among these three numbers. Now, you can probably do this just by inspection, but if we look at the three numbers we have 20, 40, and 80, one of the things we can see is that they're actually all divisible by the smallest number, which in this case is 20, right? So that means that 20 is going to be the first number that we're going to take everything common from. That is our greatest common numeric factor, right? Now, let's go through a similar process, but let's instead do it for the variables, right? So we have here x, y, z, right? We have here xy, and we have here yz, right? Now, what is the common factor between all of these variables? In this case, xyz simply means x times y times z. Likewise, xy means x times y, and likewise, yz means y times z. Now, if we're thinking about this, all of these actually have this y in common. So we have a y here, we have a y right here, and we have a y right here, right? Which means that our GCF is equal to y, right? So when we start off, we're going to have 20y, and then we're going to open a bracket, because we know that 20y is the combined greatest common factor, right? We've got some GCF part from our numerals and from our variables, and they're all color-coded, as you can see in the image here. Let's keep going. So now we have to find out what exactly is missing from what's on the outside versus the three terms that are in the inside, right? So we're going to ask ourselves this question 3 times. The first time, we have 20y on the outside, we have 20xyz on the inside. Well, what's missing? Well, let's see here. If we had an x in the middle, right, we would have 20y, right, which is here, multiplied by this x, which is right here, and 20y times x actually equals to 20xy. 20xyz, right? So that's not exactly right, because 20y times x would give us only 20xy. So it has to be an xz here, because now if we do 20y times xz, we get our full 20xyz. And let's repeat this process another 2 times. So we're going to throw in this plus sign here. Again, this plus sign just reflects the exact same plus sign that was right there. There's no change there, right? Now we have 40xy, and we started off with only 20y. So not only do we know clearly we need an x component here, because we need x, we need this y to multiply by this x to give us the xy component, we also need to add a 2 out here, because 20 times this 2 gives us 40, right? And then finally, at the very end, right, we can see we have 80xyz. And in this case, we're going to say, okay, we're actually missing a whole 4 units in the numeric part, because 20 times 4 gives us 80, right? So again, we're going step by step. It's number, 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 variable, variable, variable. And then we have a y here. Y multiplied by z will give us yz. So this is just going to be 4z at the end. I'm just going to make this in blue so it's a bit easier to see, right? And this is the factored form. So basically, what we did here is we factored, right? And in this case, we would say we common factored, right? And that is the impressive thing, because now we can actually take whatever we common factored, and we can now apply further factoring techniques to this to make it look more even. And finally, at the very end, let's just quickly check it, right? So first of all, we have 20y times xz. That makes sense because it's 20 x, y, z. Let's move on. We have 20y here times 2x. 20 times 2 gives us 40, and y times x gives us xy. And the final question that we have is 80yz. Well, we have 20 times 4, which gives us the 80, and then y times z, which gives us yz, right? So this is exactly how we common factor. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm hoping that it made common factoring a lot more clear. See you in the next one.